A microphone for Mr. Walker, please. Please, please, please. Oh, thank you. Look at that. That's Texas for you, isn't it? That chivalry. Well, how are you?
I'm great. I didn't shave, so I'm glad the lights are on.
They're coming. They're coming.
I thought it was just you and me today, but I'm glad we got an audience. And I do want to do Q&A, by the way.
You do want to Q&A?
I do like that. I do like that. I think
okay.
That's... Don't y'all want to do that too?
All right.
We got any Texans in the house? Tennesseans?
Yeah.
People from Maine?
People from Maine? Georgia.
Montana,
that's a fur piece.
Montana magic.
Is this your first cruise?
Ever.
Yes.
Yes. I'm afraid of water.
No, you aren't.
You know what it is? I'm a fisherman. Like I grew up in near Galveston, Texas, and I'd always go offshore fishing. So I've had a lot of blue water, and I didn't know how I would feel about getting cabin fever, but I'm over it. I love it. Cruising's great, and
it's great.
And I got to say that performing on a cruise, I've never done that. So this is my first ever performance on a cruise.
So it's not going to be any problem tonight to give him a whole lot of love, is it?
Well, I love you a lot, by the way. I love this lady. When she asked for an interview, it's yes before she could even finish the sentence. You're a great person.
Thank you, Clay. God bless you all. Thank you. I've been welcome for now 2 years, and for me, Clay, because we've known each other for so long, it's just a treat to have this sort of really walls down, just chatting, people talking, because we're all the same, really, in essence, and it's just good to be able to have this sort of forum so people can just get to know you a little bit better.
I think that's why people love country music artists so much, because most of them that I have met are just down there as people. They're like, I know Randy Owen is out here. He's one of my favorites of all time. I love T.G. Shepherd. I mean, Mark Chestnut, same hometown as me. It's just really cool to see all those artists. A lot of them, and I didn't name them all. Neil McCoy, Oak Ridge Boys, Pam Tillis. I mean, and I know I'm leaving some out, but that's why I never like to start with the names. It's like, telling someone who my kids are. If I leave one out, believe me, there's hell to pay after that interview. Yes, it's a fact.
That was the first thing I asked him when he walked into the green room was, how are your children?
And they're great. They're great.
You're a big family man. Tell us about your kids, because you got little bitty ones too.
I do. They're, a lot of my buddies tease me. Tracy Lawrence teases me about how many kids I have. And he goes, man, you know how that happens, right? I'm like, come on, man. But I love kids. I'm a kid at heart too. And I gotta tell you, kids keep me young. Sometimes it's crazy, and you're like, oh my gosh, did they all come from these loins? That's a bunch of them, and they're all so different. Every one of those kids and it's just crazy how you can have the same parents and have kids that are, just that different in every way. The way they look, the way they talk, what they like.
Well, how many children are there? I forget.
I have five. I have 7 actually, but I have 5 kids with my wife, and we have 4 boys and a girl. And
boy.
But the girl, this is the craziest thing. She's the one that's just like me, and I love that. It's kind of embarrassing. She's our best athlete, our best singer, our best everything, and she rules the roost around the house. She bosses me. I'm like, we have this calf. We have a bunch of cows, but we have a calf that was born, and we were out of town, and she was born on a weekend, and our ranch foreman just goes out there once on the weekend. He's on there on Saturday, and she had fallen under the fence. She was a newborn, and she got separated from her mom, and so she got brain damaged from a heat stroke, and then she has a break in her spine. And so ranch foreman says, what do you want me to do? And I'm on the the FaceTime with him, and my kids are in the car, and I'm like,
wrong. time.
And so we now have a 6-month-old invalid calf that I'm down there feeding every night with my daughter, bottle feeding, and so we go down there every night and feed her, and she goes through these seizures and stuff, and we got to deal with that. And so I'm giving you too much information here, but the part that I learned about it is I got on a phone call the other night in my truck, and she was in there feeding the calf, and I wasn't.
How old is she?
She's 13, my daughter,
13.
and she did not like the fact that I took her and my time, and I realized it's more than the calf; it's me and her every night together, and that, yeah. But craziest thing, the vet came out and said the vet sent the calf home and said, the calf's not going to get better. Well, the calf has gotten better. We pray over the calf 3 times a day. We feed the calf, and she makes me pray over the calf 3 times. I'm running out of things to say, but the calf's name is Shelby, and so every night only, praise God. I don't have to sing it 3 times a day. I just got to sing it twice at the end of the night. She likes to feed the calf at 9:30 at night. And I'm like, shouldn't I be on stage about right now? But she goes, Shelby coming around the mountain when she comes. We sing this every night to the calf.
Well, we don't want you to miss that. You want to just kick it off?
We should video. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to video this for my daughter.
Okay.
So it's Shelby coming around the mountain. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
Will you pick
her
the key?
Her name is Shelby.
Shelby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shelby coming around the mountain when she comes. Shelby coming around the mountain when she comes. Shelby coming around the mountain.
Shelby coming around the mountain. Shelby coming around the mountain when she comes.
Shelby.
Shelby, we love you. Hi, sweet Shelby.
Thank y'all. That'll be classic.
Oh.
That's my life up until now.
But that's good stuff. I mean, I said this last night on the Opry stage. You're a big star, and we know, you had lots of hits, and people recognize you, people love you. But the things about your life, the normal things about your life, are common thread for all of us. I don't have kids. I have the 4-legged variety, but what I do for my babies is just the same
and
as
what kind of dogs are they?
Well, I have just one cat, and it was a feral cat named Casey, and my husband tamed it, and now it sleeps in our bed like this.
An animal says a lot about a person. What kind of animal they have.
I think if Shelby was at my house, or if any of your dogs were at my house, they're going to be I'm going to treat them like my dogs.
Yeah.
I love animals more than I love a lot of people. That's the truth.
Well, I knew that when you said the cat was feral. I said, oh yeah, she likes cats more than people. So,
Do y'all have do you have other critters at your house other than the cows?
5 border collies.
What? 5 border collies?
14 horses. Wow. And we had a couple of cats. Thank God they're dead. No, I'll tell you what happened.
I'm calling your daughter. Tell her you said that.
Well, some people are cat people and some people are not. I'm just not a cat person. And here's the craziest thing. Every cat loves me. They will not get off the top of me. They get on my head. They get on my neck. And I'll look over at my wife and I go, tails around my mouth, I'm like, I don't even like cats. Why is this animal on me like this?
Because you don't like them.
I did like one though. I'll be honest. I did like one, and her name was Callie. And I did love her. Actually, I admit it. Not to my family, but I loved her. And she was the meanest thing I've ever seen in my life. She was little, and she was a calico. We called her Callie. And all of our dogs feared her.
Really?
Feared her. Like I couldn't. Like my border collies are like Einstein. All border collies
they're smart
are, right?
dogs.
But Not one of them would come near me if that cat was on my lap. They wouldn't even. It looked like, they knew who the pack leader was. Absolutely.
Callie the cat.
Callie the cat. I did love her. She liked to bite everybody. She would bite you. She'd just come up to you and she'd press her face into you, and she would just bite you.
Well, that's a kiss.
No. She used her teeth.
Oh.
She kind of reminded me of an old girlfriend I used to have. Anyway,
she used her teeth. Okay, Clay, you look good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's my new song.
That's
our
new song. Yeah. Well, tell me about this song. I haven't got a chance to hear it yet.
Well, during COVID, I was out in the backyard, and I may or not have been drinking an adult beverage. And, it was summertime. You need something to cool off with, And my wife, everybody's all pinned up. You can't go anywhere. All this stuff. And I'm out there in the backyard, and she comes out of the house, and she's wearing some cutoffs and like this, I don't know what girls call those things, the white with no tank tops. Thank you. And she goes walking out. She's walking across the yard, and I was just looking at her, and I go, "You look good." And she looked at me and she says, "Clay Walker, stop looking at me like that." 9 months later. But that's how the song got written. That's how it happened, just like that. I told her, I said, "You look good at anything,
That's a good, fellas, dole out the compliments, because we do like them, right?
Am I a little too forward today?
No, not at all.
Well, let's take some Q&A.
Okay.
Or did you have more stuff you want to talk about?
No, I just wanted to visit. I don't ever have prepared.
I got a new song coming out. It's called "You Look Good."
Yep.
And I'll tell you something cool. This is very cool. Like, the song hasn't even been like what we call released to be played at radio, but already 3 big radio stations, WIL in St. Louis, K-Plex in Dallas, picked up the song, and they're already putting it into heavy rotation. So that's a good sign for us,
I'm so glad, because I don't know about y'all, but we need Clay Walker on the radio. Good grief. We need Clay Walker on the radio.
So you want to do the Q&A?
Yeah.
I'll let you do it.
Okay, ma'am.
I'd like to know how you got started in your music career.
Well, that one's easy. I was poor. No, in all truthfulness, the way I grew up in a household of musicians, and around all my family, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts, everybody on the Walker side were singers and players. They were great too. Actually, it's funny, and I think it's this way in life. It's not always the best or most talented person that gets there across the finish line. It's the one that has the most fortitude. And I was determined. My cousins and people in my family could sing circles around me, but I've stepped up my game, since becoming a pro. But sitting around we had a propane tank, and we had a barbecue pit right beside it. We're kind of cool like that. But the reason why was because we like to sit on the propane tank, while everything was cooking. And we'd pick guitars and drink tea, and this old tallow tree that was about that big around. I mean, they don't know how to get about that big. This was a huge tree that was out there. And, I just remember, my grandma liked my singing the best, and so she was my favorite human being that ever lived. And her husband, which was my grandfather, I never met him because he died before I was born, but he played in Tex Ritter's band. He played lead guitar for Tex, and he was a phenomenal singer. And I know that because I've met a lot of people that, even back then, that just talked about how great he was. But he was a welder, and he welded in the bottoms of these ships, and it burned his lungs up, So he died when he was when he was 45, and my grandmother was 40. She never remarried, and it's just so funny. It takes me back to how did I know I was going to be a singer? I was 4 years old, and I was singing. I was at my grandmother's feet, and I was singing "Sunshine on My Shoulders." Remember that song?
Oh yeah.
John Denver. And I looked up, and my grandmother was crying, and I started laughing because I guess I was just nervous. I didn't know what to do, But she told my dad out there. She said, "He's got it. He's going to be the one." And that's a sweet thing. So when I was 17, I wrote the song "Live Until I Die," and it was just about the way I grew up: muddy roads, muddy feet. We grew up in the sticks. Real country. I'm talking 4 miles down a muddy dirt road, back in the middle of the woods, and it was a piece of land that my grandmother inherited, and so all of her children built or moved houses out on that property. And when I watched Yellowstone, how they, I wouldn't be surprised if my grandmother took a few people to the train station. So my grandmother worked that land, and that land had been in our family from these Vikings. My ancestors came from Denmark, and they came to Louisiana, and then they came to Beaumont, Texas, and their last name is Hildebrandt. So there were 4 families that settled Beaumont, Texas. The Hildebrands were first, and so my grandmother's uncle, Uncle Christian, had a bad foot, and my grandmother took care of him. She was just 9 or 10 years old, and she would go over and bathe his foot all the time. So he left her this property, and when my grandmother passed away, she left that property to me. So I still have the property that the original Danes came over and had. So, and it sounds like it's not that glorious, but to me it's very, very special. When I walk when I walked that land and fished every day, and I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother was a very beautiful, tall woman, and she never remarried. And I remember one day, I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. These men rode up on horseback, and they were going to come through her gate. She came out with her rifle, and I want to tell you something. She said, "I'm telling you now, you're not coming across my property." And the guy said, "Oh yeah, we are." There was a big old guy, and she shot right over the top of his head. She said, "The next one's going in you." They turned those horses around and went the other way. I come from a long line. What I'm trying to say is I come from a long line of people that, so my dad was a welder, and his father taught him how to weld and also how to play guitar. And my grandpa died when my dad was 13 years old. So my grandpa was also a professional prize fighter. He had 18 fights. He won all of them. And so we learned how to box at a really young age, and everybody knew in high school, you didn't mess with the Walker girls because you'd have to deal with all the Walker boys. So we weren't, I never was popular in school, but
Really? I find that hard to believe.
well, maybe my junior and senior year and that's why I really wanted to learn how to play guitar and sing. I was very shy, and when I'd sing, it seemed like girls would pay attention, but I didn't know. I was scared to talk to them, certainly, and so singing was kind of my way of, communicating. So it was really my wanting to interface with the opposite sex that got me going. But that's all of it. Did I leave anything out?
No, I learned a lot. So I'm watching your clock because I need to be respectful that you have a show. So
I'm not leaving. I'm enjoying
Okay.
this.
Well, they'll have to just. Then he's the boss. How about one more question? Yes, ma'am.
What's your favorite song to perform?
Man. So it does change on different nights. every night, this is the craziest thing. I don't have the same memory on any given night with a song. If I'm doing a song, I definitely have a memory, but it's never the same one. Is that wild? So it's really the memory, whatever memory I'm having at that moment is what inspires me. But I like to sing This Woman, This Man. Are y'all gonna be at the show tonight?
Oh yeah.
So I like to sing that song because, it's a hard song to sing. It's a challenge, right? It's like if you play basketball, you want to try to shoot the three-pointer. That's the hardest shot to shoot. And if you're really good at it, you're like, I like shooting from back here. So when I do that song, This Woman, This Man, there's a big range to it. So I like doing it. But Live Until I Die is my signature song because it's my life. So when I do that one, my memories, what inspired that song. I wrote that song by myself, and I look back at it and I go, how in the hell did I do that at 17? I don't know. But I know what I was trying for. I would listen to Merle Haggard songs, and I would write down on a page the whole song, line by line, and then I'd take a blank page, and then I would say, okay, what's my song idea? And then I would have that, and then I would look at the way Merle would write, and I'd look at the title, and I'd go, man, it looks like every one of these lines is pointing back at that title. You know what I'm saying? And then I was in high school, and I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I had a really pretty English teacher, so I paid attention to her. And we did this creative writing, one semester. And she used the word thesis, thesis, statement. And I was like, what is that? She goes, every line, you got to write your thesis statement, and every line you got to point back to that. I went, that sounds like Merle Haggard. I wrote Live Until I Die. That's what I was doing, and where I got the title from was my dad. I always asked my dad a lot of questions, and my dad never was very talkative, and he would be like, God, I could just see when he'd pick me up from school, I'd be just going, and my dad would be like, oh my gosh, he had his welding hat on. He'd put it down over one ear like this. Not really. My dad worshipped the ground I walk on, honestly, but he one time when I'd ask him a question that he didn't want to answer, he always had the same answer. He goes, I don't know, son, I'm just going to live until I die. And I don't know why he would say that, but he'd always say it, especially if I wanted to talk about, now how did I get here? Mama's there, how did that happen? Where did I come out of? And so I don't know, just going to live until I die. So that's where the title came from anyway.
I just wanted you to stay right here for the rest of the night. But I promised your manager.
I'm going to take some more questions.
Okay, then he's the boss.
I like these people.
Okay, who's next?
You are my kind of people.
I'm trying. One
The
more.
hook is going to come out in a minute.
I know. This lady or this gentleman right here.
Let's get a man. We got to be fair here. There's a gentleman back over there. Yes, sir.
Dreaming with my eyes open. Did you write that, and where did the idea come from?
It's a great question. It's one of the songs I didn't write that I recorded. It was written by Tony Arata, and Tony Arata is known in Nashville for just his deep thinking, and I got to tell you, every night that I sing "Dreaming with My Eyes Open," it means something more to me. It just keeps growing deeper and deeper and deeper. The lines in it. But Tony Arata wrote "The Dance" for Garth Brooks. And he's got the coolest voice. But yeah, just a great one. Another question. Yes, sir?
You performed years ago at Lansing, Michigan, and it seemed like I started a business 30 years ago and started listening to you, and it seemed like you had to leave for a while because of health reasons, quit performing or something. I wondered how that's, or I got somebody else.
Well, I was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, and it's I'll tell you something. I've never missed a show in 30 years. I missed a lot of school. But I've never not wanted to be up here singing. It's a very healing thing for me. Joyful. There's joy. It's not happiness. It's just true joy, and there's a difference. Happiness comes and goes. Many times throughout a day, but true joy stays with you. And when I was diagnosed with MS in 1996, I had some choices to make, and also had some very some big hurdles I had to get over because of what the prognosis was. And I'm sure that everybody in here has gone through some type of health issue, whether it was life-threatening or not. You've gone through some health issues, and but I got some devastating news, and it was very difficult to hear. I was 26, and this doctor that had diagnosed me had just started having all these #1 hits, and had a new baby, our first child, McClay. And the doctor told me that I was going to be in a wheelchair in a couple of years and dead a few more after that. And
Praise God.
After being in the hospital all day. Like, I was there from morning all the way to midnight. And it took them till midnight to diagnose me. And I was starting to get pissed because I'd been through so many tests. And I said, look, guys, I just have a pinched nerve. I get, this is the same stuff that happened when a box fell on my head, blah, blah. And they said, Mr. Walker, no, you have MS. You have multiple sclerosis. And I said, well, let's just take some stuff and get over it. And it wasn't the case. So I got that prognosis, and it was a devastating time in my life. And what I learned deeply is that anytime someone else sets your expectations and you listen to it, that's exactly, if they set your expectations down here, you're going to live down to that expectation. And I met a young boy, 15 years old. He's best friends with my son, who's 14. And he just went through something similar. And his parents came over my house, and their son, they're devastated by what's going on with their son. And I looked at him and I said, you cannot let a doctor set your expectations, because you're going to live down to that. They told him he would never recover, that this is a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't want to get too personal because I don't want anyone to dive into that. I probably shouldn't even have said that, but I said it to inspire everybody that's here. And that is, I told him my situation. And he has 4 brothers and sisters. And he was looking at me, and I could see the wheels start to turn in his head. And so they were picking my son up this past week to go out for a fun day, and the boy walks on a cane, right? And all this has just been very recent. My son came home beaming, and he goes, Dad, he goes, he put his cane down and started walking around with us and acting normal. I said, praise God. But and I'll tell you this, a lot of people prayed for me, probably some of the people that are in this room, okay? And you saw what happened in the NFL the other day with this guy Damar, that Damar Hamlin, look, that is nothing less than a miracle. You all know that. But let me tell you this, my doctors, I got in touch and got connected with the best MS researchers on the planet. They became my team of doctors. And one guy in particular who's an atheist, and I say that because he's one of my greatest friends, and he's definitely one of the greatest, if not the greatest, MS specialist on the planet. He's been my doctor now for almost 30 years. And he retired a couple of years ago. And I said, you're not retiring from me. And he goes, well, I have to. He said, I have to give up my license. He said, so I got to introduce you to your new doctor. He said, I'll meet you in Houston, and we'll do it. So my new doctor is this, younger guy, probably 40. And, my age.
Mine too.
And so the new doctor has to examine me. So he examines me for about an hour, and then he has to take my file, like this folder. So my old doctor hands him the file, and he goes, "Clay and I are going to go to lunch. We'll see you in about an hour." So we come back. And so we're all three standing there, and my young new doctor looks at my old doctor, and I'm like right here, right in the middle of him, and he's looking at my old doctor, and his face is just like this. He's looking at my doctor, and I'm looking at him going, "What's going on?" And my old doctor looks at the new one, and he goes, "What do you think, John?" He goes, "It's a miracle." And I'm standing there. I go, "Hey guys, I'm like right here. Y'all scaring me? What's going on?" And my old doctor looked at the new one. He says, "You want to tell him?" And I said, "Why haven't you told me this in 30 years, whatever it is you're about to tell him?" And he goes, "Well," he says, "when you look at your MRI on your brain stem, your brain, your spinal cord, all of that," he said, "when you see this amount of lesions, that you know where it's going." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well," he says, "if I would have been the one to diagnose you," he said, "I would have given you the same prognosis that this other doctor had given you." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, but it's so different." He said, "Well," he said, "it's not often that you would see someone with that kind of activity not progress." And I said, "Well, how often have you seen it?" He goes, "Never." So imagine the patience and the amount of data that he's seen. But I knew what did it. It was those prayers. And of course, my mom is like the biggest praying woman ever. And I remember when I called her the night that they had diagnosed me, and it was pretty cool. She sat there for a minute. My dad was on the phone too, and my dad didn't say anything. But my mom, it was so cool. She goes, don't ever say those words again." I was like, "What?" And she said, "We'll never claim that." So. Sorry about that.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about my mom.
It's all right. I think we've cried a lot in this room this week so far. The week's not over, is it?
No,
What a blessing you are to us. And I'm going to be praying here in a minute because your manager's about to come out here to strangle me. So you
all right,
need
we
to go
got
to your
time
show.
for one more question.
You need to go. No. You're going to get me in bad trouble. God bless you, Clay Walker. That was 27 years ago. And look at you.
And I will say this, so you know, the music. Thank you. The music that I get to sing and play for you guys. I think we're doing 2 shows tonight.
Yes, you are.
Will all of you guys be at both shows or just
Yep.
one? Okay.
Oh, they have to split it up because of the
But
numbers.
I got to just say that joy that comes off there, and I've often said this to my doctor. I go, sometimes I have a little gimpy walk, and then sometimes I don't. It just comes and goes, but it's not the disease relapsing. It's not that. It's just damage that was done from 27 years ago. But I'll ask him. I go, "Why is it when I'm on stage, I don't feel that?" He goes, "Well, it's called endorphins, and it's all that joy that comes from you guys. So I need y'all as much as y'all need me. So y'all keep on coming out."
We need you, Clay Walker.
Yeah.